So Skill 44 is the experimental method and some terms that you should know along with how scientists do experiments. Okay. There's not much of this on the test, but there's usually one or maybe two questions that deal with it, sometimes three. But it's also just overall kind of like good background information because it's how all of the experiments kind of are working in one way or another. All right. So just as a side note though, like you don't have there's very little real outside knowledge. Again, there are usually one or two questions on outside knowledge, so stuff like, I don't know, where's the DNA in a cell, or what is density, or what is a neutral pH. And we'll talk about some of the really common ones that come up frequently. But that's not really what this test is about, because it's not really fair. If you haven't taken physics yet, you're not supposed to be penalized for that in any serious way. Okay, but they do ask these kinds of things. So first of all, variables, right? Every experiment has variables. There are independent variables and dependent variables. The independent variables are the things that are set up in the beginning of the experiment and don't change, right? So they're under direct control of the scientists, okay? So for example, if you want to find the best brand of dog food, then, one independent variable might be the breed of the dog, golden retriever, okay? And we're going to set that up and it's going to be a golden retriever the whole time. And then the dependent variable are the things that are, and another independent variable would be the brand of food, right? We're going to give them brand A, brand B, and brand C. And those are independent variables. They change, right? You can have golden retrievers and you can have chow chows, and you can have that's two different types, and you can also have different types of food, right? Those would all be independent variables. They're under the control of the scientists. They're set up in the beginning. The dependent variables are what's measured at the end. So the dependent variable in this dog experiment would be the height of the dog or the weight of the dog or stuff like that, how much they grow, whatever you want, in whatever way you want to measure that. Okay, those are the dependent variables because they depend on the outcome of the experiment. So one easy way to remember is independent variables are what's set up in the beginning, dependent variables are what's measured at the end. Okay, this is related to the idea of a control group, right? You need a baseline idea for how something works before we can measure changes. So for this dog experiment, the control group would be a dog that gets the same food and that never changes. Okay, so we're comparing all the changes, different types of dog food and their growth, to the one that there was no change at all. Okay, if we want to measure the impact of a particular supplement on muscle growth, then we have to measure muscle growth without that supplement to get a default value. So like just what happens to muscles with nothing special happening at all. Okay, that's the control group, right? In the ACT science section, the way you'll notice the control group is it's the thing that they don't do anything to. It's the thing that just sort of sits there and there's nothing added or taken away. Last thing is the difference between direct relationships and indirect relationships. And this is just about trends. So a direct relationship means that as one variable goes up, the other one also goes up. And if one variable goes down, the other goes down. They move in the same direction. If you're looking at that in like a chart, it will basically be like that, right? If you have an XY chart and you have a line that looks like that, it means that as one variable is going up, the other one is also going up. Indirect means that as one goes up, the other one goes down. So if you have a chart, it's going to look like that, right? Because as this thing goes down, this thing goes up, right? And you have a situation like that. That is an indirect relationship. So you will see these ideas usually somewhere between 1 and 3 questions on a test will bring up some of these terms, and they're just important to know. And they're also kind of the backdrop of how scientific experiments pretty much always work.